Have you ever wondered, what if a thunderstorm doesn't just bring rain and lightning, but something else entirely? In today's video, you'll join me as we dive into 3 terrifying true stories, 3 seemingly harmless moments on a rainy night that open the door to ultimate horror. A young boy left alone during a storm, only to discover a stranger stepping through the back door, calling him son. A teenager waking up during a blackout to find a woman under his bed, smiling with yellow teeth and wild eyes. A couple on a weekend getaway in the woods, who, when the thunder struck, saw strangers standing still in the rain, not knocking, just watching. Think you're brave enough? Stay till the end. And if you love chilling stories like these, dark memories buried deep in the shadows, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It's the best way to help me bring you more nightmares, more real, more haunting. And if you've already subscribed, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is the only light in the dark tales we're about to enter. The rain won't last forever, but what you hear tonight might follow you for the rest of your life. Be careful. They're still looking for you. Emily Chandler never thought the house her parents left behind would be the thing that kept her awake at night. The old 2-story home sat at the end of Laurelview Road, a place where everyone knew each other's names. Locking doors was optional, and mail was still dropped into a rusty tin box by the gate. After her mother passed from a stroke and her father moved into a nursing home, Emily, their only daughter, returned to clean up and prepare the house for sale. For the time being, she stayed for a few weeks. The first 3 days were eerily peaceful. She worked remotely, dined on instant noodles, and went to bed early in the room that used to be hers as a teenager. Everything was still there. The faded Nirvana poster, the mushroom-shaped bedside lamp, and the diary shoved behind the drawer. The night wind still slipped through the doorframe like before. The old carpet still reeked with that musty scent. But what kept her from sleeping wasn't nostalgia. It was the knocking. At exactly 3:07 a.m. on the 3rd night, Emily woke up, not from a nightmare, but from a steady knock-knock sound, as if someone was tapping on wood. Not loud, not frantic, just rhythmic, 3 knocks at a time, then silence. She sat up, heart pounding, eyes scanning the room. The door was shut, curtains drawn. The wind wasn't that strong, and there were no rats in this house. She stepped into the hallway and switched on the lights. A dim yellow glow spilled downstairs through the gaps in the staircase. Silence, coldness. Then, knock, knock, knock. Again, this time from the front door. Emily froze. The only other person with a key to the house was her father, and he was at the care facility. No one else knew the gate code. No one had any reason to be here at this hour. She didn't open the door. She just stood there, listening. 1 minute, 2. Then 5 minutes later, the knocking returned, softer this time. Closer, like it was coming from inside the walls. Emily couldn't remember how long she had stood in front of the door. Each knock echoed straight into her chest, not just because of the sound, but because of the way it followed a pattern. 3 knocks at a time, spaced exactly 4 minutes apart, as if someone were testing a signal, as if sending a message. She didn't dare open the door, nor did she dare turn her back on it. It felt as if she turned away, a hand would reach through the crack and pull her outside. After a while, the knocking stopped completely. But just when she thought she was safe, the kitchen light, one she had turned off before bed, suddenly flicked on. No flicker, no surge, just on, as if someone were in there, casually making coffee like any other morning. Emily slowly backed into her bedroom, her hand never leaving the old flashlight mounted on the wall. Every backward step matched the pounding of her heartbeat in her ears. She locked the door, shoved the dresser against it, a reflexive, irrational act in the very home she grew up in. But something had changed. She lay on the bed, eyes wide open, until the first light of dawn crept in through the curtains. The next morning, Emily searched the entire house. The front door was locked, no signs of forced entry, no strange footprints in the yard. But on the floor, near the front door, lay a small piece of paper, so thin it almost blew away in the breeze. On it, in water-smudged red ink, were just 3 words:
"Don't sell the house."
Emily tossed the paper into the fireplace. But all that day, she couldn't stop glancing at the security camera installed at the front gate, originally more for show than function. She checked the footage from the night before. Nothing. No visitors, no cars, no movement, except one segment, right at 3:07 a.m. The image glitched and blurred, but clearly showed a dark, shapeless figure standing at the front door, not knocking, not moving, just standing there and staring directly into the camera, unmoving. That evening, Emily called a friend who worked as a private investigator, asking him to pull up the property's ownership history. An hour later, he called her back.
"Where are you right now?"
His voice was tense.
"At the house,"
she replied.
"Emily, you need to leave. That house. It was the site of a missing persons case. 3 people, no bodies, no resolution, but one detail stood out. All 3 lived there, and all vanished at exactly 3:07 a.m.
Emily dropped the phone, eyes fixed on the camera feed. 3 a.m. She stepped to the window. The wind picked up. On her phone screen, a notification popped up from the security app. Motion detected, living room. Emily ran downstairs in the dark, phone in hand, eyes locked on the notification. Motion detected, living room. She stopped at the final step, pressed her back against the wall, holding her breath. From here, she could see part of the living room. No lights on, no sound, but something was off. The sofa had been pulled out of place. The photo frame, her mother's black and white wedding portrait, was now face down on the table. Emily slowly stepped forward, each footfall sinking like it was in sand. She turned on her phone's camera, scanning the room with a trembling hand. The screen shook with every breath. No one. But when she turned toward the kitchen, she froze. The refrigerator door was wide open. The smell of old food drifted out, stronger and stranger than usual. On the surface of the fridge were 3 handprints, faint, smudged, as if someone had leaned on it. From the inside, her phone buzzed. A message from her detective friend. Old case file listed 3 missing persons in that house, but the police also found traces of a 4th individual, identity unknown. They believe he never left. A sound behind her. Emily spun around. Nothing. But when she raised her flashlight to the ceiling, her eyes met the vent above. A decorative air grate she had always assumed was just for show. The metal flap was crooked. A dark, tattered blanket hung partially out from the opening, and behind it, barely visible, an eye. Not wide with panic, not startled, just half open, as if it had been watching her for a very long time. She froze. The room suddenly felt colder. She backed toward the front door, fumbling for her keys. But just as she turned, knock, knock, knock. 3 knocks. From inside the wall, behind the carved wooden panel near the fireplace, the one no one had ever checked. Emily screamed, snatched the keys, flung the door open, and bolted into the night. It was still dark. She didn't grab anything but her phone and car keys. An hour later, the police arrived. They searched the entire house. No intruders. No signs of forced entry. But inside the ceiling vent, they found something Emily couldn't bear to look at again. A filthy mattress, a yellowed pillowcase, and a journal, its pages filled with writing in red ink.
I'm not alone. She came back, but this time, I won't let them leave again.
Emily left town the next morning. No packing, no goodbyes. Just a few clothes, a box of family documents, and the neighbor's cat, whom she had never even liked. She drove straight to New Haven, rented an Airbnb by the sea. No cameras, no attic, no crawl space, nothing. Every night she slept with the lights on, but she still dreamed. In her dreams, she saw the old front door. It was ajar. Behind it was a room with no ceiling, no floor, just an endless hovering darkness. And from that space, the knocking returned. Knock, 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 as if someone were calling her home. 2 weeks later, she got a call from the police. They found someone in the house, the officer said.
Not alive. We don't know how long he'd been there, but based on DNA samples and evidence of habitation, we estimate at least 12 years.
The fourth person?
Emily whispered.
Possibly, but he wasn't alone.
What do you mean?
There were markings in the attic, drawings, a lot of faces, and among them was a picture of you from 10 years ago, and your mother, and another woman. We haven't identified her.
Emily didn't respond. She quietly reopened the old security app on her phone, the one she'd uninstalled before leaving. The screen flickered to life, displaying an automatically saved video clip. The timeline blinked, a new recording, origin unknown. 3:07 a.m. The living room door opened. A shadowy figure stood there, not looking at the camera, but facing outward, facing her. Then a faint message appeared on screen, like a scratch across the lens.
You will return. This house never lets anyone leave.
Jake Mathers grew up in a model suburban family. Both parents were teachers. His younger sister excelled in school. The lawn was always trimmed, and dinner was a full-table affair every night. But at age 27, after his parents died in a suspicious car accident, Jake finally returned to his childhood home as the sole inheritor. Nothing about the house had changed. Everything was preserved to an unsettling degree. The family photo from Disneyland still sat on the mantle. The wooden clock still chimed every hour, and the basement door remained tightly locked, just as it had always been. His mother had forbidden him from going down there.
It's dangerous,
She used to say.
Your dad was remodeling, but never finished.
But now both of them were gone, and Jake figured it was time to find out what had been hidden away. Everything in the house felt too quiet, as if the home itself was pretending nothing was wrong. On his first night back, he found a small key in his father's desk drawer. Beneath it was a slip of paper, scrawled in black ink. Do not open when it rains. It wasn't raining that day, so Jake opened it. The old basement door creaked like something out of a cheap horror movie. The air below was thick with the smell of mildew and rotting wood. But what truly raised the hairs on Jake's neck was the cold iron door embedded in the far wall. It had no handle, no hinges, as if someone had built the entire room solely to hide it. He shined his flashlight across its surface. Rusted, but clear marks of scratching, long, desperate gouges, etched by old, worn fingernails, as if someone inside had once tried to claw their way out. Next to it, carved into the wall in jagged lines, were the words, "I still hear their voices." Jake stepped back, gripping the flashlight tightly, and then, clink, clink, a faint metallic sound echoed. The door just moved. Jake stood frozen in the pitch-dark basement, his heartbeat pounding like war drums in his ears. The metal door had no handle, no gap, but just moments ago, it had shifted. Whether it was the wind or something else on the other side, he couldn't tell. He shone his flashlight closer. There was a small crack along the edge of the door, like it had once been pried open with force. The carvings beside it came into sharper focus, jagged, frantic phrases, repeated hundreds of times. They haven't left. They whisper, "Don't let them out." Jake swallowed hard, feeling the basement close in around him. He turned and headed upstairs, locked the basement door. But that night, sleep never came. Around 2 a.m., he woke to a strange noise, not loud, not distinct, like something heavy being dragged across concrete from downstairs. He turned on the light, grabbed an old baseball bat from the closet, and crept toward the kitchen. The noise stopped. The silence was so complete, even the refrigerator sounded unnaturally loud. But one detail stopped him cold. The doormat in front of the basement door was out of place. Someone, or something, had come out. Jake dialed 911 but deleted the number before pressing call. How could he possibly explain,
"I think something crawled out from a door without hinges in my parents' hidden basement"?
Instead, he dragged a chair to the basement door and sat there the rest of the night, never closing his eyes. The next day, Jake began combing through his father's old study files. In a hidden drawer, he found a small leather-bound notebook. On the cover, 3 words were etched by hand: "Keep order." Inside were scattered journal entries, most of them repeated phrases. Day 16, they fought again. But now, only whispers. Day 22, she's calling my name, not her real voice. Don't answer. Day 41, the boy still sleeps, as long as we don't open the door. Jake sat still. His father had believed something was behind that wall, not hallucinations, not imagination, real voices, voices of his mother, and possibly Jake's own. He remembered his childhood, waking up at night to someone calling his name from somewhere beneath the floorboards. He always thought it was a dream, but what if it wasn't? For 3 nights after discovering the journal, Jake didn't sleep. He kept his eyes glued to the feed from a makeshift DIY mini camera installed in the basement, streaming directly to his phone. Every night, precisely at 2:03 a.m., the camera captured movement, flickering lights, a shadow passing by, and occasionally, whispering. A woman's voice. A voice that sounded like his mother's.
Jake, are you okay? Are you cold, sweetheart? Come down here with Mommy.
Jake had heard that voice in dreams, in the recording of his 7th birthday, in the voicemail she left the week before she died. It couldn't be real, but it couldn't be fake either. On the 4th morning, he decided to open the door. Even without a handle, the door had cracked open slightly, just enough for him to slip his fingers in and pull. A blast of cold air hit him, thick with the stench of rot and mildew. Inside was a small pitch-black room. The walls were coated in dust and peeling wallpaper. In the center, an old armchair, and in it, a figure. A woman, frail, gray-haired, her face turned toward the wall. Jake froze.
"Mom?"
He whispered, almost involuntarily. The woman slowly turned her head. It wasn't his mother. The face was wrinkled and warped, like someone had stretched human skin over the wrong skull. The eyes were pitch black, lidless, yet wet, and staring straight at him. The mouth curled into a smile, a grin that stretched unnaturally wide, almost to the ears. Then she spoke.
You finally opened it.
The door slammed shut behind him. Jake banged against it. No handle, no exit. The air was freezing, thick like smoke. And then the voices began, echoing from the corners, from the cracks, from inside his ears.
Close it again. Keep them in. You're the only one who remembers.
On the walls, new writing appeared, as if someone was carving it with fingernails.
We are family, and family stays together.
The house above fell silent, and no one has seen Jake Mathers since that night. 1 month after Jake disappeared, the Mathers family home was sealed off. Police found no signs of forced entry, no evidence of struggle. The basement was empty. There was no metal door, no hidden room behind the wall, just solid, seamless concrete, cold and untouched, as if no one had ever been there. They concluded Jake had left voluntarily, perhaps overwhelmed by grief after the loss of his parents. A non-suspicious missing persons case. But Jake's best friend, Mason, didn't believe it. A week later, Mason snuck into the house through the back door. He went straight to the basement, bringing a UV flashlight and a masonry hammer. Jake had once sent him a strange audio clip, a woman's voice calling his name, a voice eerily similar to Jake's mother. Mason tapped on the far wall. There was a hollow sound. Something was behind it. He chipped away at the plaster. A narrow gap opened. In the darkness beyond, there was nothing, except for an old sheet of paper pressed flat against the wall. He shone the light on it. It was Jake's handwriting. "If anyone finds this, don't open the door. My mother isn't in there. But something very good at pretending to be her is. It didn't kill me. It did something worse. It made me remember. And now, I remember everything." At the bottom of the page was a long clawed scratch, as if someone had been dragged away mid-sentence. And at that very moment, Mason heard it. Knock, knock, knock. 3 knocks. Slow, very soft. He turned around, but the basement was empty. Only the flashlight had just gone dark in his hand. When Sarah was told that her sister, Emily, had returned home after 3 years missing, she cried like a child. Everyone had thought Emily was dead. No clues, no messages, no trace on security footage or bank accounts. One winter morning, the police called. Emily had appeared at a rural clinic nearly 90 miles from home, walking in torn clothing, barefoot, hair matted, and wild. She couldn't say anything except one sentence.
I need to go home.
When Sarah arrived at the hospital, she nearly fainted. Despite the gaunt frame and long scratch marks down her arms, it was undeniably Emily. That look in her eyes, the tiny mole on her left cheek, everything matched. And yet, something didn't feel right. Emily remembered nothing about what had happened. She couldn't explain where she'd been, what she'd eaten, or how she had survived.
Like a very long dream,
The psychiatrist said. They allowed Sarah to take her home after 2 weeks of treatment.
Don't push her. Let time do its work.
Sarah cleaned out Emily's old bedroom. Nothing had changed in 3 years. The lavender wallpaper, the bookshelf was packed with comics, and the seashell-shaped music box Emily had once treasured. That first night, Sarah heard a soft scratching under the wooden floorboards, the sound Emily used to make with her fingernails when she was anxious as a child. But what chilled her was this. The sound wasn't coming from Emily's room. It was coming from beneath Sarah's bed. She stepped down, turned on the light, and looked carefully. Nothing. But when she turned back to her bed, The seashell music box from Emily's room was sitting on her pillow. Its lid was open. The melody played. But it wasn't the song that the box was made to play. It was a lullaby only the two sisters knew, a tune their mother used to sing to the real Emily. Sarah didn't sleep that night. The seashell music box lay still on her pillow, its lid gaping like a mouth that had just whispered something. The melody echoed in her mind, not the box's original tune, but a lullaby their mother used to sing. A song only the two sisters knew, never recorded, never written down. She stepped quietly into Emily's room, careful not to make a sound. The door creaked, slightly open. Emily was lying on her side, facing the wall, breathing evenly. But Sarah noticed something strange. Though it was the middle of winter, she wasn't under a blanket. The window was wide open. No shivers, no movement. She just lay there, still, one arm dangling over the side of the bed, covered in scratch marks from wrist to elbow. Sarah stepped back and gently closed the door, but just as the latch clicked shut, she heard a voice from inside.
Sarah, are you taking my things again?
Emily's voice, but stretched, like an echo from the bottom of a well, not angry, not sad, just wrong. The next day, Sarah tried to act normal. She brewed tea, baked cookies, and put on one of Emily's old favorite cartoons. But Emily's reaction was off. While watching Courage the Cowardly Dog, a show that used to make her laugh uncontrollably, Emily just stared at the screen, expressionless, as if she didn't recognize what she was seeing. Sarah took a test. She asked,
"Do you remember the night you skipped school to go to that concert? You told Mom and Dad it was your friend's birthday."
Emily frowned slightly, smiled.
Yeah, that night, you made me call and apologize, right?
Wrong. Sarah had never made Emily do that. They had covered for each other, promised never to tell anyone. It was their sacred secret, a moment of rebellion only they shared, a memory known only to the real Emily. That night, Sarah secretly checked Emily's phone. No call history, no messages. Every app was spotless, like the phone had just been factory reset. But in the notes section, there was a file created at 3:13 a.m., the exact time Sarah had heard the scratching under her bed. She doesn't remember, but I do.
She said she'd always recognize me, no matter what I became. Let's find out.
Sarah turned off the screen, trembling. She went back to her room, locked the door, and pushed a chair against it. Left the lights on all night. And then, the scratching returned. This time louder, faster, from inside the wall. By the third night, Sarah couldn't take it anymore. She set up mini cameras throughout the house, one in her bedroom, one in the hallway, and one in Emily's room. She needed to know what was truly happening after midnight. Emily wasn't her sister. No matter how much she looked like her, the voice, the way she walked, even the scar on her wrist, everything matched. But whatever was living in this house was something else. 2:59 a.m. Sarah stared at the phone screen connected to the cameras. Everything was still. Emily was lying in bed, appearing to sleep normally. 3:06. The hallway camera began to glitch. 3:09. The camera in Emily's room. Lost connection. 3:11. Sound. A screeching noise, like metal scraping wood. Then the knocks. Knock, knock, knock. Not fast, not slow. And then, Emily's voice came through Sarah's room monitor, even though Emily's door remained closed.
Sarah.
It wasn't a call. It was a plea. A soft, begging whisper coming from inside the wall. Sarah leapt up, grabbed her phone, and ran down to the basement, the only place without a camera. She pushed open the door and turned on her flashlight. The north wall, once solid, now had a long, jagged crack, and on it, in white chalk, were the words,
I'm still here. She's not me. Please help me.
Sarah backed away. She couldn't believe her eyes. Then a sound behind her, slow, heavy, deliberate. Sarah spun around. Emily, standing on the staircase, no light, no shadow.
You went into my room.
The voice was flat. Sarah didn't answer. Her grip tightened on the flashlight.
I don't like people touching my things.
Emily continued, her eyes wider than usual.
That's what Mom always said. My real mom.
Then she began to descend, step by step. The phone light flickered.
Remember? Mom said if we ever got separated, you'd find me first.
The voice cracked, no longer smooth, but dry, like rusted metal grinding through a throat.
But you didn't come.
The basement plunged into darkness. Sarah turned to run, but just then, the camera feed on her phone lit up. The screen showed Emily, the real one, frail, dust-covered, silently crying in a pitch-black room. Her hands were tied. She whispered into the camera,
Sarah, it's me. That thing. It's using me.
And then the screen went dark. Sarah fled the house that very night. She took nothing but her phone and the hard drive containing the final video from the camera. It was the only piece of evidence that her sister, truly, was still alive and being held somewhere, possibly right inside the house where they'd both grown up. But when she handed the footage over to the police, they looked at her like she was delusional. No unusual signals, no image like you described. All we see is a dark screen and static. Sarah checked it herself. The screen now showed only a blank room, Emily's bedroom, silent, clean, undisturbed. No bound sister, no whispers, no chalk messages on the wall. Just one new message had appeared in the home camera app, timestamped 3:07 a.m.
Don't try to save me. I chose to stay.
Sarah didn't dare go back. She rented a small apartment on the top floor of a downtown building. No basement, no hollow walls, no back doors. But that night, as she sat typing an email, the kitchen light flickered. And then, knock, knock, knock from the air vent near the ceiling. Sarah approached, heart pounding like it might explode. A whisper came through, broken, distorted, but familiar.
Sarah, don't let it do this to anyone else.
Then, one final line, cold, ragged, like it came from a torn throat.
Are you sure you're living alone?
Sarah looked around the room. Silence. She didn't answer, because she felt it, a pair of eyes watching from behind her. We've just stepped through 3 doors, 3 families, 3 stories that seem to belong only in the dark, and yet we're told with details far too real to be fiction. A house with knocks that never stop, a reminder that something never really left. A deep basement hiding someone no one dares name, yet still living, still remembering, waiting. And a sister who returned from nowhere, bringing memories that weren't hers, and eyes that didn't belong. So what about you? Are you sure your loved ones are still who they say they are? Have you ever looked at someone and felt they look the same, but something's not right? We grow up with them, share meals, sleep under the same roof, but sometimes the things most familiar to us are the ones that can hurt us the deepest. If you're feeling a chill down your spine, if your heart is still racing after what you've just heard, leave a comment below. Which story will keep you up tonight? Have you ever had a terrifying experience with someone you thought you knew? And don't forget, subscribe so you won't miss the next night, where secrets and forgotten memories come back to knock at your door. Like this video if you agree that sometimes the most normal things are scarier than any ghost. Share it with a friend, because who knows, they might have a secret too, waiting to be told. This is CreepLine, where the most familiar things are the ones that scare you the most. Good night, if you dare.